Hey, what's going on, guys? On tonight's episode of the Birds of the Roundtable, we are talking and ranking our top 5 Eagles position battles heading into training camp. Guys, be sure to like, be sure to comment, be sure to subscribe. Let's get it. All right, guys, let's jump right into our guests. First off, my man Shane over at @halfandhalf_TBL. What's up, Shane?
Not much, man. I just got back from the pool with the kids like 5 minutes before we went live. So ran through a quick shower. Man, if you guys have never been to Oklahoma, make sure you don't come in July or August. We literally have not had a day without 100+ degrees this month. Friday, the high was 109 with a heat index of 116. So we're frying down here, but I'm excited to talk birds. I'm probably going to sweat through this shirt because my office is so hot right now. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. I'm going to throw it right down to my man Ryan over at Philly Sports Alliance. What's going on, Ryan?
Not much. Glad to be here as always. Loving the Birds of the Roundtable here, and excited to talk a little position battles. As you know, training camp is 2 weeks away. Gotta love it.
Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. Then we have the other Ryan. What's going on, man?
Nothing much. Happy to be here. Thanks again for having me on. Just excited for this upcoming training camp. That means the season's only a little bit further after that, and just can't wait to get down to the stadium.
Love it, man. Let's just jump right into this thing and lead off with our number 5 position battle for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is at linebacker. Everyone knows Hassan Reddick will be a stud and get snaps at both linebacker and on the line this year, but we're talking about the other guys. I think, hands down, one of the most fun storylines going into training camp will be how much Jonathan Gannon uses his linebackers and what combinations we're going to see them in. I think the position has real talent and depth for the first time in a very, very long time. I think all signs point to Nakobe Dean starting week 1. I think this guy's a field general. I think this guy's a beast against the run. And I think he's a good enough zone defender to stay on the field, whether it's regardless of the down or distance. I think the question with Nakobe Dean will be how fast he's able to pick up and learn Jonathan Gannon's defense, and as well as whether or not he can stay healthy. All signs that point to him being healthy during minicamp and spring practices. So we are all good there. Then we've got Kaiser White, free agent. He signed a 1-year prove-it deal with the Birds. I think the biggest thing with him is that this is a converted safety. This is a guy most known for his coverage ability. He was ranked PFF's 20th best linebacker last year. He notched a ton of tackles. And then we get to Davion Taylor, who is a project, but an absolutely on that most improved player list for 2022. And TJ Edwards, who I think is probably like the unsung hero of that 2021 defense. You look at when this guy literally started to start for the Birds last year, they went 6-2 in their final 8 games. In those last 8 games, the Eagles defense was 6th in yards per game, 4th in rushing yards per game, 7th in points per game, and PFF graded TJ Edwards the 10th best linebacker in the NFL. But I think a little bit of a decrease in his snaps this year is very likely. I'm going to throw it to you, Shane. What do you make of this position battle at linebacker?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to watch unfold in training camp. I fully expect right now that Nakobe Dean he's going to be wearing the green dot for the Eagles defense. We've heard over and over how smart this guy is, how instinctual he is as a player, what a leader he is on the field. So as long as his injury things check out, which the Eagles have indicated every step of the way that he's fine injury-wise. So barring something coming up there, I expect him to be the signal caller for the defense. I think it really comes down to that third spot between Kazir White and TJ Edwards. White's going to be your better coverage player. Edwards is going to be your better run stopper. And so I think you're going to see them both. Maybe you'll see Edwards more in the middle in 4-3, and then in nickel he comes out for Kazir White. Unfortunately for Davion Taylor, I just think he's going to get lost in the shuffle. He's a guy that was, always super athletic, but really raw, and he's kind of become a little bit injury prone in the NFL. So I kind of see Davion Taylor falling to the wayside.
Yep. We have Mike in the house saying, "What's good, fellas? What is going on, man? Thanks for joining. Dean, Kaiser White is a tackling machine. I absolutely agree. Ryan Finneran, what's your take on the linebacking group?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you guys. I mean, you got Dean, Edwards, Reddick, White, kind of just, I feel like those guys are locks. I feel like Taylor and even Kyron Johnson kind of on the outside looking in. I mean, I think, that between, Edwards and White, it'll be a good battle. But, I think Dean definitely be the shot caller out there. Field general is one of the best ways to put it. I really love that term. And, I still have kind of high hopes for Kyron Johnson. I like this kid. I think he will be good. We might not see it that much this year, but hopefully he can get some playing time and get out there. But I would say that Davion Taylor is going to be on the outside looking in.
Yep. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it kind of is all going to be dependent on how they're used and how many are going to be out there at a time. They're going to be known for multiple defenses. Whether we see kind of a 3-4 and there's 4 linebackers out there, or 3 or 2. It's going to be a nice combination, and obviously Reddick will be kind of a split linebacker edge, whether he's on the line or not. But I think it's all going to be determined on how quickly White and Dean pick up the playbook, because they're coming in new. Obviously, Dean has the whole NFL experience to kind of absorb as well. So I kind of look for early on maybe White kind of getting a little bit more playing time than Dean. But I think as the season progresses, Dean starts to pick it up. And I think by mid-season, we're going to see him running out there, flying around and being kind of the main linebacker. And Edwards, again, has slowly and just incrementally getting better each year. So I'm kind of curious to see his progression again another year. And, it's unfortunate with Davion Taylor. The kid's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of speed. Injuries have kind of screwed him a bit. And, I kind of assume he'll most likely be a practice squad guy or, a main special teamer, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think we're all pretty much on the same page. Nakobe Dean will be the field general there. As much as I'm interested in how Jonathan Gannon, mixes in and out his combinations of linebackers on the field, I'm also interested to see kind of what we were promised last year, and that's more stunts and more blitzing from the linebacking group. And Nakobe Dean had 28 quarterback pressures last year. It was college, but we know Reddick is great coming off the edge. They brought in Jordan Davis to take up guys in the middle, and what that means for guys coming off the edge. That's what I'm also interested in this training camp, to see how he incorporates just more getting to the quarterback, which the Eagles, they got there, but they weren't able to get home last year.
Well, he didn't, speaking of Gannon, think about the linebackers from last year. He didn't really he doesn't have the talent he does this year.
Exactly.
And so, when you give a coordinator a lot more tools to work with, they're going to be able to open up what they can do themselves. So, and like you said, the defensive line is going to be huge here, clogging up the middle, clogging up those, offensive linemen for these linebackers to sneak through and sneak around. And like you said, we were pretty good at getting there and hurrying and rushing, but it's that finishing. It's the finishing job. It's getting those sacks. That is what's going to be huge for this Eagles defense. And if they can do that, the sky's the limit with this defense, honestly.
Yep.
This will be Jonathan Gannon's last year as the defensive coordinator in Philly. You heard rumors that he got interest from some teams for a head coaching job this offseason. He has all the tools now. He didn't have the tools last offseason. So either the defense will excel and he's going to be a head coach somewhere next year, or it won't, and the Eagles are going to move on. But we're going to find a real clear answer on Jonathan Gannon, and we're going to do it pretty early in the season.
I agree. Mike says Gannon better bring the house. I love it. Scott says, good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for joining, Scott. Anybody have any other final comments or thoughts about the Eagles linebackers before we move on to our number 4?
When the Eagles drafted Davion Taylor in the 3rd round of that draft, I said he was the type of player that will be good for some other team on a second contract, and I stand by that. Like, he's the type of player that's going to take years to develop, and that's why I thought it was a bad pick at the time. I still think he might go somewhere else and be decent, but the Eagles were never going to have the patience to wait on that.
Yeah. True.
Fair. That's fair. All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Let's move on to our number 4 position battle for the Philadelphia Eagles heading into training camp. And that is, who the heck is tight end number 2? We all know Dallas Goedert is a flat-out stud. We all know the Eagles receivers were really improved this year. More on that in a little bit. And I think I expect a little dip, a bit of a dip in 2 tight end sets this year. But behind Goddard, there are question marks. Jack Stoll took over tight end 2 duties following the Zach Ertz trade last year, but he was primarily used for blocking. He had a really good pass blocking grade of 84.2 last year, the highest mark of any qualifying tight end last year. But he was only targeted 5 times for 4 catches and 22 yards. And when you consider like how many 2 tight end sets Sirianni ran last year, that number is a little staggering for me. Then you go to Tyree Jackson and Grant Calcaterra. I think those 2 are the real wild cards of this group. For Jackson, I think his timetable to return is still kind of up in the air. But I think he's probably the biggest one that has a real chance of having a decent role on this team. And then you have Calcaterra, who is trying to get to prove himself out there in training camp. He has real vertical and yak ability. He's more of a receiving tight end. If he's used correctly, I think he could definitely make an impact somewhat. I don't really have much to say on Richard Rodgers, but personally, I expect Calcaterra and Stoll to impact on special teams, get snaps depending on the situation. But the reality is, I don't think either of those 2 guys are probably going to get any kind of heavy targets this year. Goddard, Smith, A.J. Brown, Quez, all those guys are going to get the majority of the snaps. But my thing is Tyree Jackson. I think Tyree Jackson, 6'7", nearly 250 pounds, incredibly raw, but that's the guy of this group that I'm most interested in. I'm going to throw it in reverse. Reese, what's your take on the tight end position?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more about Jackson. Last year you got a chance to head down to NovaCare and watch some practice. And honestly, it was a great experience, but I got to tell you, he was probably the one person that stood out the most.
Literally.
Literally. I mean, not only is he humongous, but he was making plays. He was catching everything thrown to him. He was really fluid with his movements. Like, he has transitioned beautifully to tight end, and unfortunately just keeps getting banged up. So if he can be healthy, and again, we don't know exactly when he's going to be returning, but if he can eventually come back, I do not doubt that he could come right in and be that tight end too. As far as Stoll, you're right. He was the tight end too towards the end of the season. due to trading away a player, due to everybody else getting injured. So they really had no other choice. I'm not really all that thrilled with his skill set. Like you said, he's a good blocker, but that's about it. Rodgers is what Rodgers is. He's the vet. He could come in, he could do his thing. So perhaps, while we wait for Jackson to return, he may take that role in the beginning of the year. And then, we have Calcaterra, who came very highly recommended, with everything that he's done in college. And, I'm really hoping that he can kind of develop, maybe not this year, but eventually get into that tight end 2 role, because he does have the skill sets. And I think it would be a nice compliment to Goddard. I just don't think, unless he, has an amazing camp and picks it up quick, I expect him to be kind of that tight end 3 or even practice squad guy to start the season. We'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I'm really looking forward to Jackson. Again, I'm really hoping he gets healthy quick and gets ran back out, because dude's a monster.
Yeah. Scott says there's something about Jack Stoll that I like. Mike says there was a report over the weekend that Jackson may start training camp on the IR or the PUP list. I'm pretty sure that's confirmed.
Yeah, he is on the PUP list right now.
Yeah. And then Scott says running back position has me wondering a little bit. We don't have that on this list. Anybody really want to touch on the running back position?
Miles Sanders is going to be your starter, and then he's going to not be an Eagle next year.
Yeah. I've been on record many times on this show or Party on Broad saying Kenny Gainwell will have more touches than Miles Sanders by the end of the season. I'm really I think we're going to see a lot more checkdowns with Kenny Gainwell and Jalen Hurts this year. It's just a simple way to get Hurts going a little bit on offense. What about you, Ryan Finneran? What's your take on the tight end 2?
For tight end 2, I really like Stoll for his blocking ability. He proved that he can do that, and Calcaterra is a better receiver. So it's kind of like that tool versus weapon thing. So Jack Stoll being the tool for blocking, Calcaterra being the weapon for receiving. So I could see possibly like a tight end 2 tandem, maybe having certain situations Stoll come in, certain situations Calcaterra come in. I agree with what you were saying before, though. I highly doubt either of them are going to see the field very much, like in big games, in big roles. But the guy, kind of like echoing what Reese was saying, Tyree Jackson is just a monster. I did read about the PUP list, so just it'll be worth monitoring how he's progressing. But it's already kind of a fact. So, but just watching him, seeing him out there, what he can do, he reminds me of like a little bit. I think he's a little bit taller than Jimmy Graham, but I mean somebody that can really get out there, get up and get the ball at its highest point, really affect the game. So with kind of putting Jackson off to the side, I honestly can see the Eagles wanting to give Calcaterra this role, kind of giving him way and every opportunity to win this position. So I'm going to go with Calcaterra. Richard Rodgers is, he's getting up there in age. He's one of those guys. I guess he's reliable, maybe, but it's one of those things. I think he's out, and just hopes that Jackson can get healthy, be healthy. One thing to mention though, Calcaterra in his past has had a lot of injuries, and mainly head injuries, concussions, things like that. So that can also be something to watch out for, because once you have a couple concussions, it kind of can come easier, I guess. So that's something to watch out for as well.
And he retired to become a firefighter, and then the Eagles drafted him. So I don't know, a little bit of deja vu, maybe, just a little bit. I think Richard Rodgers is one of those guys that you sign out of free agency, and November when Tyree Jackson gets hurt again, Calcaterra gets a concussion. Like I don't think he's on the 53-man roster. Nobody wants him. He's your old reliable vet you just bring in. So it really comes down to those other 3. Tyree Jackson, I know he looked impressive last year in practice and things, but he got injured twice last year. He got injured in training camp, I think it was, and then he got injured in the one game he played in at the end of the year. So I think it's fair to have concerns about that. He is going to start on the PUP list. He can be activated from that, but if he's not by the cut down to 53, he would at least be out the first 4 weeks. So we'll monitor that. But for me right now, it's between Stoll and Calcaterra. And it is it is an important thing. The Eagles ran 12 personnel, 25% of their snaps last year. And they were more effective out of 12 personnel than they were out of 11 personnel. So they value that second tight end spot. With Calcaterra, the concern with him is that he is a willing but incapable blocker. He can't block. And so when you're looking at running 12 personnel, you would really like to be able to put your tight ends in line as threats, to run the ball. And if you're not going to be able to do that with him, would you rather is he a better receiver than Quez Watkins? He's not. And so it's going to be on how much of a development he can make as a blocker. Now, Dallas Goedert, one of the knocks on him was that he wasn't a good blocker, and he turned out to be a pretty good blocker. So maybe Calcaterra develops that. But for right now, I would say Stoll probably gets the nod. The Eagles are going to want to give it to Calcaterra. They spent one of their 5 draft picks on him. He is a good receiver, but he's going to have to develop a little bit as a blocker, I think, to be able to get onto the field.
How Calcaterra shows during training camp is going to be really, really interesting. That's definitely a player to watch for sure. Let's go to some comments. Scott says, haven't we learned about the firefighters? No disrespect to firefighters, but Danny Watkins. Love it, man. Love it, man. Let's roll. Anybody else have any final thoughts on tight end before we go to our number 3? 1, 2, 3. Going to number 3 is wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. We all know the top 3 wideouts for the Eagles offense is set. Smith, Brown, Watkins. All those guys will see the majority of the playing time at receiver this season. I think PFF just ranked the Eagles having the 4th best wide receiver group back in June. So we're looking at the fourth spot here, very much up for grabs. Pascal definitely kind of has that, I don't know, for me at least, the vibe that he's going to probably get this spot, mostly probably due to that connection with Nick Sirianni. I think we'll probably see him a lot more in the slot in this offense. He's got really good size, kind of similar to Jack Stoll a little bit. Like, this is a really good blocking wide receiver. I think he's going to be kind of this year's J-Jaw, and that measure can truly only go up in that respect. Then we get to Jalen Reagor, and let's be real, like, the dude was absolutely awful last year. He had 3 games in which he actually had negative yards from scrimmage. He dropped 2 I'll never forget. He dropped 2 touchdown passes against the Giants. He had that.
My favorite thing was tweeting out after games that you had more net receiving yards today than Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, exactly. He had that muff punt during the Eagles' playoff loss against the Bucs. I mean, I think there's still good money to kind of like, you think that Reagor might get some playing time. He has the weight and the gravity of being a first-round pick, how he does make these decisions, and that history of Nelson Aguilar being awful his first 2 years and then kind of having that breakout year in his 3rd year. That's definitely there. Greg Ward, that's my guy, man. You can ask Shane. I've been on the Greg Ward train for years. But let's be real. The dude could have signed with anybody else and came back with the Philadelphia Eagles on a 1-year, $1 million deal. I love Greg Ward, but I think this definitely, we're at the end here. I'll throw it to you, Shane. Lead us off, man. Who is wide receiver 4 for the Philadelphia Eagles?
It's Zach Pascal. I mean, that he's brought in. He is the Chase Daniels, if you will, for Nick Sirianni. He's the guy that knows his offense, the vet he's familiar with, the guy he sees as reliable. Zach Pascal is going to be your wide receiver 4. And to be honest, neither Reagor nor Ward should make this team. Wide receiver 5 should go to Britton Covey or Devin Allen, whoever can return punts for you. So I do think Reagor will end up making the team simply because he costs you more money to cut than to keep. and I don't think the Eagles are going to be willing to swallow that. They'll probably roster him this year and cut him next year. But if I was running things, Rager and Ward would both be gone, and one of those other guys would make the squad as the wide receiver 5. But Pascal's definitely my wide receiver 4.
All right, Pascal for me, Pascal for Shane. Scott says Rieger, bye-bye. How many chances has he been given? He's just not mentally prepared for Philadelphia. I fully agree with that, Scott. Chris says, don't be surprised if we go out and trade for is it Ebron, I think, the backup, Dallas Goedert. Calcaterra and Stone will battle out for the 3rd spot. Mike thinks Greg Ward catches everything. I love Greg Ward. Keep it rolling, Mike. I love the Greg Ward positive comments there. Yeah, we didn't even go there. One of what we debated if we should have kick return or punt returner on this list. That was definitely an honorable mention, but we didn't go there. But Mike says Howie, number 1 pick, 2 Rieger. Yep, definitely agree. What about you, Ryan Finneran? What's your take on wide receiver 4?
Rager, trash. Ward, fun. Pascal, reliable. So I think Rager just he leaves a bad taste in the mouth. I couldn't agree with you more that it's terrible that we had a 1st-round pick just kind of float along. It wasn't even like a wash. It was just floating along, waiting for all of us to just kind of look at him, pick at it, and then he fails us all. So I hope he's gone. I can't stand him.
Who would you rather have on the
Philly? I mean, honestly, I like John Hightower. I think that he's not bad, fast, 6'2", pretty good when he was out there, showing that he can move and play alongside with, some of the pros, if you will. And then I agree with, forgot Shane, at Devin Allen, Covey, the rookies, they can get looks and somebody can step up and kind of, show out, if you will. But I think that Pascal is going to be the 4, and maybe Ward can find a spot on this team. I don't know. Obviously, we'll see. But as long as everybody can just push Rager out, so he's gone. that I don't know how it would work. I don't know. I feel like you're right. We're just going to be stuck with him, and it's going to be another year of watching trash. But that's the hopes that we're all hoping that it doesn't come to that. That with Brown, Smith, Watkins, and Pascal, that we don't have to really see any of these other guys too much. So I think Pascal's going to be it.
What about you, Reese?
Yeah, I think obviously Pascal has the upper hand right now. It's really going to depend on how the roster shakes out, I think, as it always does with wide receivers, whether they keep 5 or 6. And, again, is that 5th and 6th wide receiver, are they going to covet somebody that's more of a special teamer or a returner? The Kobe, the Allen, will they be the 5? Will they be the 6? Again, depending on how much, how many wide receivers. But I honestly, as much as I think we all kind of agree on Rager, I don't see a way that Rager's not on this team. I really don't. Whether we like it or not, I don't think they're ready to admit the mistake just yet. Like you said, it would cost them more to cut him than to keep him at this point. So I think he's going to have another year to wake up and do his thing. I mean, think about it. Rager was, when he came into the league, into this team, we had no one. So we were relying on him to be the 1 or the 2. Now we're talking about him as the 5 and the 6. So I think we just need to appreciate that fact that he has been pushed down the line so much, and maybe that might help him. But, there's no pressure. You got A.J. Brown and Smith and Watkins and Pascal. There's no pressure on him anymore. it's now just, hey, listen, you want to keep playing the NFL? Show us what you got. Show us those skills that made us draft you in the first round. But again, I don't see how he's not on the squad. I think he ends up being 5, and we take one of those young, not young because one of them's old as heck, one of those rookies as a punt returner, and we have 6. Unfortunately, Greg Ward, your services are no longer required. I'm so sorry. You stepped up in many ways for us over the years, and we appreciate your time, but it is time for you to go. Yeah, that's how I see it shaking out.
Wasn't there like a time period where Greg Ward was the Eagles' #1 receiver?
Guy basically was.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Like 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was when Rager came into the league. It was Ward and then Rager.
He was the only receiver they had that could catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
That's an amazing thing to think about, where we are today versus back then. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's be thankful for where we are. That's all.
Oh, God, let's not go there. Let's not go there.
I'm a big Howie guy, so yeah, let's not go there.
Chris says Sirianni loves Pascal. He'll be our number 3. Quez will back up Devontae Smith. That's interesting. That is interesting.
That's a hot take.
Yeah, I think
Quez had almost double the yards per target and like a 25% higher catch rate last year than Pascal did. There's no way that he comes in and he's wide receiver 3. I think Quez Watkins would have been 1,000-year. I'll just say this: Quez Watkins would have been a 1,000-yard receiver last season with a better quarterback. With better quarterback play, he would have been over 1,000 yards. He's good. He's very good.
If there's anything we learned last year is that Quez needs more targets. The dude is a big play weapon, man. Mike says,
Speed.
"Can we?" Speed is insane, and he had some great catches last. Underrated. Remember, we did our show. Top 5 plays of 2021 about a month ago, and Quez was in a few of them. Yeah, he's made some crazy acrobatic catches. Got great hands. Huge season in 2022 for Quez. Mike says, "Can we redo the 2020 draft over and just take Justin Jefferson?" I really don't want to talk about that.
But you'd have to be in the top 5 to get him now.
Yeah, exactly. I think Quez should be our number 3. I fully agree. He's going to have a field day against CB3s, 100%. And Mike says another J-Jaw, Derek Barnett, Jalen Reagor, Howie draft picks.
I will say, though, like, Howie's done a really good job rebuilding this roster over the last 2 drafts, the last 2 off seasons. Now, we could get into why the roster needed rebuilt. But he's done a good job. I think Howie, I'll take us a conversation we weren't going to go on. I think Howie is a top 5 roster builder in the league. He is not good at sustaining the roster once he builds it. That's my take. I think he is good at digging a team out of a hole. He struggles to keep them out of the hole. We saw, we were talking dynasty after the 2017 Super Bowl, and there's mitigating circumstances with Wentz, but there was a lot of other bad contracts and draft picks that went into that, and the wheels fell off.
Sure.
They bottomed out in 2020, and take an objective look at the last 2 off seasons. Howie did a great job getting them back out of the gutter. Now, is he going to keep them there? I don't know. I'm not as optimistic, maybe.
Well, with the youth and the opportunities with this young squad, he does have it kind of lined up to continue in the direction it's going. I would say. It looks like it, but yes, it comes to the test of time and will continue.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think it's those kicking the can down the road type contracts that kind of screwed them, and especially considering, we all thought 2018 was going to continue, and again, if we could have made it past New Orleans, maybe we'd be singing a different tune and celebrating another Super Bowl, and not caring that much. But he's done a great job. I agree with you. I think he's a top 10 GM in the league. I just think we're obviously closer to the situation. We're obviously more critical. We see the mistakes more than anybody else. And obviously we have a couple of big ones with the Rager over Jefferson, the J. Jall over DK kind of thing. I agree. But as long as he continues to kind of replace older talent with younger talent, as he's been doing the last couple off seasons, I foresee this team to continue going on that projected uptick.
He does. I mean, he does still have his Achilles heels. Like, you look as good as universally panned as this offseason was, as good as people have talked about it. He still went and signed Fletcher Cox to a $14 million deal, which was just an objectively terrible decision, because he's self-admitted that he gets too attached to players that have been around a long time, and he knows that's an issue. Yeah, he knows that's an issue, and he still falls into that from time to time, which is concerning, especially when you then go trade up to select Jordan Davis, and you've got so much. You had Milton Williams, who you drafted last year, who looked well in limited playing time, and so there's quibbles like any team's going to have, but perhaps that's a conversation for another podcast. I hijacked Dimes' rundown.
Can we do that?
Can we do that next week? We'll do we'll do Howie moment. We'll just argue about Howie.
Worst Howie moments. Oh, I love that.
I'm in. I'm so in.
That sounds fun. We've got Prestige Taco in the house. What's going on? Thanks for joining. Any final comments on the wide receivers? I think we all agree Pascal is going to be wide receiver number 4, correct?
Yep.
All on the same page.
Can we go back to tight end? We didn't talk about J-Jaw.
We forgot J-Jaw, I know. We totally forgot to include him.
I have nothing to say about J-Jaw. He's not making it.
There's no room for J-Jaw in there. Squeeze him in the middle.
No, you're right. There's no room.
I will drop perhaps a controversial take. I would rather J-Jaw be our tight end 3 than Richard Rodgers.
I actually agree with that.
I don't think that's that controversial.
No, I agree with that.
At least Richard Rodgers has done it in the league for years. Like, I don't know about that, Shane.
I'm done with Dick Rod.
All right, rolling on to our number 2 training camp battle, and that is safety 1 and safety 2. This is definitely going to be one of the bigger ones to watch in training camp. McLeod leaving in free agency. You expect, this is Marcus Epps' job to lose here next to Anthony Harris. Epps played 45% of the Eagles' defensive snaps last year, and all signs point to him having a much bigger role in 2022. In the last 2 years, Epps has played in 30 games with 8 starts. He's going to have a ton of more opportunity here in his 4th NFL season. He ended last year with 62 tackles, 5 pass breakups, an interception. He was ranked PFF's 18th best safety last year, well ahead of Rodney McLeod, well ahead of Anthony Harris. And for better or worse, he was the best looking safety for the Eagles. So I guess the main question here is, can Marcus Epps look as good or even better with an expanded role? I think that is like the biggest question mark moving forward. I thought Anthony Harris was a huge disappointment last year. He's definitely versatile. He can play both free and strong safety. He can play deep safety. He can help you in the box a little bit. But he didn't impress me at all in coverage. He always seemed to be around the miscommunication, like blunders that we saw in the defensive backfield last season. I think he's a good backup, but he's not a quality starter, at least on my end. I'll hear what you guys think. Then we get to Kayvon, who the Eagles drafted back in 2020 in the 4th round. He started 3 games in his past 2 seasons. He played only 16% of the team's defensive snaps, and 83.5% of those came in weeks 1, 2, and 18 when Rodney McLeod was not active. So for me, all signs point to Kayvon, not getting a big role on this team. Then we get to Jaquiski Tart. He's a physical safety. He doesn't have the best stats, the most efficient stats, but and he only had 4 interceptions in the last 7 years. But he is another versatile safety that we know Howie likes a lot. He's experienced. He's solid in run defense. He thrives at playing downhill. He's a hard hitter, which is something I think Eagles fans will love. I don't really know where this position is going to go. I think it's just – I don't know if anybody knows where this position is going to go. It's definitely Marcus Epps and then whoever wins it. I'm going to throw it to you, Reese. What's your take on the safety position?
Yeah, I think Epps kind of gets a little crapped on. Doesn't have a lot of flash or whatnot, and I think Eagles fans have kind of just anointed him as the oh man, that's our weak point in our defense now, and I feel like it's a little unfair. He played decent. Yeah, Anthony Harris was average at best. Um, but I like kind of bringing in Tart. I think him and Epps will push each other. I think Wallace, unfortunately, is a step or two below that. Still, kind of a longer term developmental safety. Get him in when you can and try to build him up that way. So, I don't think he's going to be in the mix. I think they might honestly have a really just nice 3-man rotation with Epps, Tart, and Harris because I feel like they do have a skill set in all three of them that can kind of play where they need to play safety wise. So I'm kind of excited to see how Gannon fits all three of them in there um, because I think they're all kind of very similar on the same level. Harris obviously the vet, Epps the up and comer, and Tart that's kind of been around for a few years as well. So I like the fact that they brought in Tart. I think that just adds, if anything, it adds depth to that position. That clearly, with all of the offseason moves that we made, was the weakest link. But what we've done in the other positions will help out our safeties. We've built up a linebacking core that was pretty crappy to a pretty respectable one right now. We got ourselves a second corner in Bradbury. The defensive line is filled with depth. So all of those, work in connection with each other. And I think the importance of the safety position isn't going to be so severe now that those other positions are going to only make their jobs a little easier. So I think they're set up perfectly. You don't need studs back there right now with the way this defense is. So I think they have the three guys that'll absolutely be perfect for the job. And I think they can actually thrive with everything else that we have going on in this defense. So for one of the first times in God, I can't remember. I'm pretty satisfied with this defense overall and with the defensive backfield and the safeties.
Wow. Reese is drinking the Kool-Aid for sure.
I so am. I am drunk on that stuff.
Dylan says added pressure from Reddick will help the back end significantly.
Dylan knows what's up.
Yep. I think Tart will get snaps as third safety against spread formations. Mike says Tart is a tackling machine, makes plays. Also, good against the run. Battle comes down to Epps versus Tart. What about you, Ryan Finneran? What's your take on the safety position?
Well, I was kind of going to say exactly what Fuji just said. I have looked at some tape from Tart. He is a tackling machine. The guy knows how to close out, knows how to get to the ball, and really has good fundamental skills. And kind of towards what you were saying, Dives, is like Epps is the guy that you wish was just a little bit better. And I think he's going to kind of remain that. I had high hopes for Kayvon Wallace, but it seems like he's still in that, I don't know, not a developmental stage, but it's like, I mean, he's really got to show out in this training camp to get up in, even in the Eagles kind of line of sight, just for them to be like, okay, yeah, we'll give you a couple more shots and see how you are against, starters and first teamers and stuff like that. But, Tart being a veteran, been in the league 8 years, Epps proving that he at least can play on this team and be effective in a way. Those things bode well. Kayvon Wallace, I don't know about him, how long he'll be on this team, if at all. I'm curious about the rookie, Reed Blankenship. It's kind of looking at some of his tape too. Guy knows football. He's got a football mind, but again, he's a rookie. He would have to just jump off the page for them to actually have him starting. But if it comes down to it, I would have to say that Epps will be there, and then Tart, kind of just right there, right behind him during training camp.
Yep. What about you, Shane?
I'm quite a bit higher on Marcus Epps. I thought last year he was the best safety on the Eagles roster. I thought he outplayed Anthony Harris. I thought he outplayed Rodney McLeod. And granted, he did it playing under 50% of the snaps. I think he played like 44% of the snaps last year. But the Eagles are going to play 3 safeties. They had 3 guys in their top 12 of snap counts on defense were all safeties. So I think they're going to play a rotation of 3 guys. I think Marcus Epps is the guy that's going to be their snap leader at safety this year. And then I think you're going to have Jaquiski Tart and Anthony Harris sort of rotating in that safety 2 and third safety because they like to go 3 safeties. I think you can maybe put Tart in the box a little bit as well too in some sub packages and things like that. As for Kavon Wallace, it's just never worked out for him. He seems always banged up. He seems to just not be making the progress they wanted him to. I was really high on Kavon Wallace when they drafted him. I thought he had the potential to be that day 3 steal, and it just hasn't turned out that way, which it often doesn't. Guys make it to day 3 for a reason, but there's always some of those guys you like, and he was one of them. But I think his time's kind of running out. So I think Epps is actually going to be your snap leader at safety, and then I think Tart and Harris will rotate into that second and third role.
Love it. Any final thoughts?
I did like that. I did like that comment. Jared Maiden as well, kid from Alabama. I mean, when you think about the college football teams that you're looking to kind of scout and get a defensive player from, Alabama's one of them, and the kid's only 1 year in, so that's it. He could be interesting, something to watch. The story during training camp, hopefully. Wouldn't it be a good problem to have if this kid comes up and starts performing out of his mind and really makes us all question all of this?
I'll take one of those Alabama safeties next year because what's his face is an absolute stud. Jordan Battle will be one of the top picks in the draft next year. Jordan Battle is the name everyone should know.
The Eagles won't take him because they don't take safeties.
No.
One other thing on Jaquiski Tart I'll mention is I like production out of my safeties, and he's basically been a starter for 7 years in San Francisco. And in those 7 years, he has 4 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. So he's not a big play guy. He's a solid tackler. He's not a guy that's going to make splash plays. I want a guy that'll make some splash plays at safety. And I think you saw Epps flash some at times last year.
Yeah, no question. No question. All right, let's roll on to our number 1 position battle here for training camp, and that is the right guard position for the Eagles offensive line. Seumalo has started at left guard for the Eagles since early in the 2018 season. He suffered a Lisfranc injury in his foot in week 3 last year that ended his season. It required 2 surgeries. During that time, Landon Dickerson really established himself as future starting left guard next to Jordan Mailata. And now Seumalo has moved to right guard to replace Brendan Brooks. When he's healthy, Seumalo has definitely proven himself to be a quality lineman in the NFL. The problem is health. Since he started all 16 games in 2019, Seumalo has played just 12 games over the last 2 years. And then you get to Jack Driscoll in his 3rd year. Absolutely has shown promise. He's proven that he's a quality and versatile backup in this league. He's played both guard and tackle spots. He started 13 games overall in his career, 8 at right guard last season. Per PFF, Driscoll ranked as the 20th best guard in the NFL last year. He missed 5 games as a rookie. He missed 8 more last season with injuries. And then you get to Cam Jurgens, the Eagles' 2nd-round pick. I'm really excited to watch Cam Jurgens this year. By the way, his beef jerky was delicious. It was seasoned very well. I had it the other day. Go check that out. He does make, Cam Jurgens has a beef jerky company. Swear to God.
All right, cool. Because I was
Yeah.
like, are you just hanging out with Cam Jurgens? He's like, hey, man, I just
Hey,
dropped
I
this
got
out.
the-
You
I got
know,
the big
smoked
turkey.
it. Come on over.
We ate it the other day. It was delicious. Jurgens was obviously drafted as future replacement for Jason Kelsey, but he's never played guard at Nebraska. You hope that he's a quick learner. I think that's a really kind of underrated storyline to see how much Cam Jurgens picks up the playbook here for Nick Sirianni's offense, and I think definitely could have a chance to play right guard. I'm going to throw it to you, Shane. How do you see the right guard position playing out?
Yeah, so it's interesting because, as Andre Dillard taught us, switching sides of the line is not necessarily easy. And so Sayamalo, it's not a foregone conclusion he can just switch to right guard. He would be playing, he's still next to Jason Kelsey, but he's going to be playing next to a different tackle. You get the health issues that come into it. I've said all along, I thought Isaac Sayamalo is kind of underrated by Eagles fans. He's a solid NFL starter, and I think that sometimes people have ingrained the guy that got benched against the Chiefs, like in his rookie or second season, as who he is. And I think he's a good player. That said, I would start Driscoll. I thought Driscoll played too good at right guard last year to change that up. Cam Jurgens, I don't think he factors in here unless these two guys get hurt, which is a possibility. I just want Jurgens to learn behind Jason Kelsey. So if it was me, I would be rolling with Driscoll. In fact, I would have gotten rid of Sayamalo. I would have moved him. You could have saved $5.6 million by moving him, and I wouldn't have kept him at that price tag, given the investment you have in Driscoll and how well he played, given the draft pick of Jurgens. That said, I do think Sayamalo is probably going to get the job here. The Eagles seem to like Sayamalo quite a bit. I think he is probably your starting right guard unless he really struggles in camp. But I'm really pulling for Driscoll and maybe a Sayamalo trade somewhere.
Love it. What about you, Ryan Finneran?
It's very interesting. I do like Driscoll. I liked how he played last year. Big fan of Sayamalo. It's funny that Shane mentioned that game because I think Reese and I were watching that game together and just saying who is this turnstile? Like this guy that is just literally getting spun around, and oh my gosh, it was rough to watch. But that being said, I agree with Shane. I think Sayamalo is going to be our starter come game one. I do like Driscoll a lot. I like how he could step up at that time, and it's interesting that, again, echoing Shane, that he mentioned that Jurgens can be there, considering that Sayamalo and Driscoll both are kind of not injury prone, but they've been injured quite a bit for their time. So it's one of those things where Jurgens, obviously, you're going to watch Kelsey, mirror him, learn from him, but also be prepared because both these guys could go down. So it's one of those things where he needs to be versatile. But when all is said and done, I think Sayamalo being, as big as he is, as strong as he is, I think that he will find success moving over to the RG.
Love it. Comments real quick. Dylan says that he loves the depth at inside offensive line. Fran Duffy and Ben Fennell were highlighting undrafted free agent Will Dunkel before the draft. I don't really know much about Will Dunkel. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Dylan also says Matt Pryor is currently listed as starting left tackle for Indianapolis, praying for Matt Ryan. That's terrific. That is terrific. Marina Sand says, I think Nakobe Dean will be situational this year. I think. Yeah, I don't know about that. All right. What about you? He's going to be on the field a lot. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah.
What about you, Reese?
Yeah, no, I again kind of am going to piggyback off of what everybody's saying here, but I'm actually predicting that Driscoll will win the job, and with that, I also feel like a Sayamalo trade could be in the works, for a team where somebody goes down because, he could go anywhere and start. He's a very good guard in this league. I do agree that the transition is probably going to be a little tough, but he also has been kind of thrown around center and left guard, so he's not new to the idea of switching a position. So I just think Driscoll really, really outperformed all expectations last year. I thought he was, I'll be the first to admit, I was like, oh God, like, who is this guy? Like, this is going to be terrible. And he held his own. He more than held his own. So I think he right now has kind of that slight upper edge, in my opinion. I know that going into camp, it's probably going to be Sayamalo taking reps at one, but I foresee Driscoll overtaking that. And I do not want to see Juergens at the guard position. I want you no more than 2 feet away from Jason Kelsey at all times. I want you to absorb not only his knowledge, but just his personality, everything. I want you just to become new Jason Kelsey. So don't leave his side. You were playing center. I don't even want you in this conversation. I think Driscoll ends up winning it. It's going to be a close race, and I think the Eagles would be smart to try and trade Sayamalo, get a little bit of something, and yeah, I mean Rufus knows what's up.
Yeah,
I mean,
Rufus
he's got
says
back.
he's hoping Juergens focuses on center. I don't want him to end up being a great right guard and have Howie draft another second round center.
Well, I mean,
Right.
if he's a great right guard, that could work out too. But
All right, so those are our top 5 position battles. Guys, did we miss anything? Let us know down in that comments section after we wrap this up. But now's the time for plugs. Reese, floor is yours, man. Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, just doing our thing over at Philly Sports Alliance. We actually just got a nice little agreement with Philly Sports Trips, where we are essentially joining up with them. We are going to take a nice bus ride down to DC for the Week 3 September 25th game against the Commanders to see Carson Wentz and the Commanders play the Eagles. So we are looking to fill a whole bus. Head on over to phillysportstrips.com, find your way to the bus trip to FedEx Field, and just make sure you write in Philly Sports Alliance, get on our bus, and we're going to have an amazing tailgate and party and win a good game. So, yeah, we're excited.
Definitely going to try and jump on that bus, man. Definitely doing that. What about you, Ryan Finneran?
That'd be awesome.
Anything you want to plug?
yeah, just check out Philly Sports Alliance, all the shows that are listed on there. Again, thank you for having me on here, and I'm sure Reese is thankful as well. It's just awesome to get on here, talk sports with you guys. You guys are very knowledgeable, awesome to talk to, and I really appreciate it. So I'll give the floor to you guys for your shows.
Thanks, man. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, check out my podcast, Chalk Talk. It's a little slow right now in the off season, but we're still putting out stuff. Our last episode was a rundown, a preview of the NFC East and the NFC South. So be sure you go check those out. Also, I want to give a shout out to somebody, but I don't know who it was. But I hit 1,000 Twitter followers today, and so I tweeted out like that. Thanks for the support. I hit 1K, all that stuff, and someone promptly unfollowed me, so I'm at 999. And I don't know who it was, but it was hilarious. So I hope they don't forget to come back to. I hope they don't forget to come back to me. But that cracked me up when I saw that.
Twitter. I'm going on Twitter right after this, and I'm going to follow you, and I hope I'm the 1,000, and I'm going to tease it too.
Yes, but yeah, I thought that. I saw it. And I tweeted it out as we were like getting to the pool with the kids. And then we got out to like redo sunscreen and stuff. And I checked my phone and I saw it dropped. And so I like snapped a picture and quote tweeted it. And I was like, that's hilarious. But
dude, I saw that happen in real time. I saw that happen in real time, and it was absolutely hilarious.
It was Reese.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, Fenner, while you're on Twitter for the first time in 2 years, why don't you follow your own network, pal?
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, guys.
It's another person.
All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for watching. The comments were awesome tonight. Thank you for joining us. I've got my top 5 cornerback video of the 2023 draft dropping within the next few days. Getting ready for that one. I've got edge rusher rankings and quarterback rankings on Thursday. I'll have Mark Schofield to break down Jalen Hurts. Getting ready for training camp, talking about like what will be the deciding factors of what will Jalen Hurts have to show to us to move on with him as future Eagles quarterback, things like that. That'll be live at 7 o'clock East Coast time on Thursday. Tons of fun. Tomorrow is our Ms. Marvel review, finale review. Cannot wait for that. And then Thursday night, we've also have a Sixers draft where we're going to be creating 3v3 squads, similar to what we do on the Birds of the Roundtable, but just Sixers edition, where you vote for who has the best 3v3 squad in all-time Sixers history. So that'll be a lot of fun coming up.
Very cool.
That program, guys. Make sure you go check out Philly Sports Alliance, guys, on Facebook, anywhere you check out your shows. But Philly Sports Alliance is an amazing, amazing group led by my man Reese down there. This is so much fun having our roundtable shows. Expect more and more of these coming as we get closer and closer to training camp. And follow everyone here on Twitter, except for Shane. Keep him at $9.99 as I go and unfollow him right now. But guys, thank you everyone for watching. For Shane, for the Ryans, for myself, stay awesome.